tip.
Good afternoon. It is January 22nd, 2024. You're listening to a Little Column A, Little Column B, hosted by Will Lemanos and co-hosted by Zach Bishop. How are you doing today, buddy?
What is going on, Will? After some lackluster playoff weekends of football, we finally got just an all-timer. All the games, maybe didn't come down to the final whistle, but they were all intense. There was a lot of drama going on. Definitely in that Packers 49ers game. I didn't even have a rooting interest, but you're just on the edge of your seat the whole time.
The edge of the seat is an accurate way to describe it because there wasn't anything outrageous or unbelievable about the weekend. Actually, most of it went kind of according to plan, other than Green Bay. That was a scary game, and if you're San Francisco, we'll get into that. The drama and stress that they were under. I mean, they just didn't have that great of a game. But I'd say for the most part, all of the teams pretty much showed up, right? Nobody just mailed it in. I think you could say what you want about Houston in the final score of it all, but at the end of the day, they had a guy who was a rookie at a pretty decent game. And if you're Houston, the best news of all this, I know you didn't win, but you got a guy. You have a quarterback. The rest of the league, the only other teams that have that are most of the teams that are left. And I'll let you figure out which one maybe doesn't have the one later, but I was very pleased with the outcome of the games. I was mentioning to you before the podcast about how I'm exhausted from the football games. I was funny. I'm used to watching Red Zone with 15 games on at once and flipping back and forth, and yet the constant of all of this of all right, the next team that makes a mistake is pretty much going to decide this. And the drama of back and forth, turnovers, and quarterback controversies, and a little less so hectic of a weather outcome, but I was very pleased, very, very entertained. I didn't miss Red Zone. Did you? Is there any way we could get Scott Hanson back for the weekend, though? How could we just a halftime report, maybe?
You just want to hang out with him a little bit? I think that his strength is all of the chaos. So when it's just one game, I don't know exactly what you have him do.
I just want to watch football with him, I guess. He doesn't need to do anything. He just
just hang out?
Yeah, I think it'd be, hey, did you know? And then it would be no, I didn't. And that'd be awesome.
Okay.
I think the other thing that would be a little bit of a weakness for him is I think he's very fantasy forward. And now that that's gone, that's a lot of content I don't think he has in his back pocket anymore.
No. And yeah, there's no real fancy going on. But I agree with you that the only one you could really argue didn't show up was Houston, but they have Stroud. And I mentioned on the podcast last week was their Super Bowl. Them getting a playoff win with a rookie QB against the talented Cleveland defense. And in this game, tied against Lamar at half. So I think before the playoffs, if you had said, hey, you're going to win one game and you're going to be tied with the Ravens, would you sign up for that? Absolutely. You 100%.
No, it was a great outcome other than them not getting a touchdown. They only had the punt return for a touchdown. Other than that, it wasn't anything for him. I mean, he didn't have any interceptions either. I think that's another thing to be, I guess, to hang your hat on somewhat. He didn't go out there and just go reckless and say, all right, I didn't get any touchdowns, but I threw 5 interceptions trying to get one. It was.
I think they more just ran into Lamar, who's most likely going to be the MVP, who is just, 2 rushing, 2 throwing, 100 yards rushing, just a crazy good game.
He looked great. All right, let's jump into the picks so we can talk about some of last week's games as we go through them. Sunday, 3 o'clock, we'll have the Chiefs at Baltimore. Now, the Chiefs-Bills game, it delivered. I don't know how else to describe it other than my expectations were outrageous and it delivered. It was everything I wanted. It wasn't quite the ending I wanted, but it almost was, and it was almost better that it wasn't that. It was the only unscripted part of the whole game. But
what was it? Was it five lead changes? It was just it was back and forth, and we had said coming into it, it's probably going to end up with whoever has the ball last, and it should have happened that way. I get when it was that final kick, he misses it wide right. It was a 44-yard kick, and the weather was not great. And I think it was 4th and 9, so it was too far to go for it. But just would have liked on that last set of downs, Josh Allen. It's a whole group effort. Just a couple of really deep shots where there was still plenty of time left. Maybe you take one, but not multiple to the end zone. And just help your kicker out and get a first down, and you could even take more time off because for sure that is that's a risk going against Mahomes at all times. I mean, Bills know it better than anybody.
I thought the Bills had a lot of chances. For as close as this game was, there was a lot of opportunities for it to not be close. I mean, first you have the Hardman fumble into the end zone, which is already such an outrageous rule to have. And it's like, all right, well, it's fine because it almost never happens. And then when it happens, you're like, I can't believe this rule. This is an outrageous rule. And it's like, well, you just take care of the football. They're pretty strict about that in the rule book throughout every other play. Why not? Why would it be any different on this one? But if you're the Bills, it's like you had that. You also had this wild fumble recovery that they didn't have, that they lost and recovered almost instantly. That also shouldn't have happened. And then they only forced Kansas City to punt once. And it wasn't even a real, defensive stop. I think it was after a penalty where they just got pushed back. They didn't stop Kansas City once this whole game, and they had so many chances. I think that's the only part that feels like, all right, well, they were in it. They were really close. There's nothing really to be disappointed about. But I kind of think that they should be a little disappointed. Like, those two opportunities that happened, those are huge difference makers that were in your favor, and you still lost by 3. I mean, what are the changes that Buffalo should make? Are they going to get a new kicker next year? Are they going to get a new coach next year? Or are all the guys that they already can't afford starting to go off to other teams for the bigger contracts, or just moving on from this team? I don't know if the window's over. The time of possession was 37 minutes to 23 minutes. Like, Buffalo had the ball 37 minutes and still didn't win this game. It's hard to say that you should be disappointed when this is just another team that you lost to Mahomes. I don't think you should be disappointed by, but I'm disappointed. Like, what would you do if you were the Bills going into next year to kind of fix this?
You asked me a lot of questions there.
Yeah.
You mentioned the window closing. I don't know if it's so much of it closing, is that Mahomes is just in Kansas City and he's young. He's gonna be there for a while. So your window, I don't think, is necessarily closing so much as that impediment is always going to be there. One of the big challenges that's going to be coming up is the past few years when they've lost to Kansas City. This was the first time that they actually got to play at their place, so thought maybe things would be a little bit different. But also, Josh Allen was making between, I think it was like 16, 17, 18 million dollars per year. He got his extension. It jumps to 40. So that is $20+ million that you can't be paying other positions. So that margin, that just gets shrunk. I don't know where they're going to take it from, but now you're paying quarterback the tippity top of the money, and it's just going to make it more challenging. To the coach, maybe it is time. I get when you look at some of the other coaches, the Mike McCarthy, Nick Sirianno. We talked last week saying, oh no, those guys are gone for sure. It sure seems like both those guys are going to be sticking around, but your expectations on teams are different. Now, I think that's why a lot of people thought these coaches would be gone. But there's other teams that, oh man, you guys made the playoffs. We'd love to have a coach that makes the playoffs. But I think this might be a teens 2000s Warriors situation. They had Mark Jackson. They were making it to the playoffs. They were decent. You maybe need that different coach to get to just like that next level up.
I don't think you're even aware of the curse you just put on us, because you know what coach would be perfect for this team.
You think Belichick would? I think he would. He'd fit right in that sideline. Keep wearing the hoodies.
The hoodie. He knows all the teams in the division. It's the quarterback I think he'd like to have. I think it's also the city he'd be fine with. I don't think he wants to go Hollywood. I mean, I'm not knocking Atlanta or anything, but I think he kind of really liked that Foxborough was not New York City, even if the media might have been from the success he caused. But I think
it that so much, or just the weather? The weather is an issue, and all the stuff that I've heard is that they'd have practices in the rain. They'd have practices where they just make the ball wet and just make it difficult just because, hey, it might be raining on Sunday, where if you're in Atlanta, half your games are at home, they're in the Dome. You don't need to worry about weather in the Dome.
He would get the record faster and probably fastest with Buffalo. Now, that being said, I'm not advocating for them to get a new coach. I don't think it was coaching errors that necessarily cost him this game, but it's hard to point a finger at anyone. It's almost like everyone kind of showed up and did their job, and the job just wasn't good enough.
I mean, and that final stretch there, Stephon Diggs, ball hit his hands. Was it an easy catch? No, but I mean, the whole second half of the year, he has not played well. That's an issue. I don't think you can put it all on the kicker. Like I said, weather wasn't great. Should he have hit it? Probably, but I don't think it was a sure thing. And it's easy if because that ended the game pretty much, but that only would have tied the game, and there was still a minute 40, giving it to Mahomes with 2 timeouts to only need to get it in field goal range. I mean, that seems like a pretty good chance that that's going to happen. So if you were a Bills fan, would you have preferred to lose this way, or would you prefer to lose where Mahomes rips your heart out again as he marches down the field and kicks a field goal, no time left?
I think I'd rather lose to Mahomes. This one was bad because it was. I think they could have done a little bit more to get the kicker a little bit closer, and I think they really didn't want to settle for a field goal. It felt like in some of the attempts they made, but it just we talk about it all the time. I don't understand why this is called football, and it's games like this where it's like, oh man, it really does feel like it's football now when it comes all the way down to this guy kicking the ball. It's a one play of the whole game, which the guy that you've invested in all the money in on your team, the offense you spent all the money on, the defense you spent all the money on, is on the sideline, and this guy's supposed to go out there and tie this game up. And he's a good kicker too. Like I thought this was somewhat out of the ordinary. I mean, what was your opinion when it happened? Were you like, oh, that's Bass again? It's like, no, that was shocking. I thought he missed. I think he's pretty solid.
He's definitely a good kicker. I don't know why. For some reason, I just had a bad feeling when they were lining up. I think it was just the combination of, okay, best case scenario here is you tie this game up and you're giving the ball right back to Mahomes, and also you could miss this kick. Like, there's a lot of pressure going on right now, and I don't know. For whatever reason, I just had a bad feeling about it. But I don't think it was Bass related so much as just Buffalo, all of that history. You're giving the ball back to Mahomes, and he's done this repeatedly.
All right, speaking of Mahomes, gets the job done. Playoff Mahomes is a thing. 13-3 playoff record. He's in his.
Who are his losses to?
I have no idea. Oh, I had no idea. That one old guy. Someone. Does he dye his hair? I can't remember. It's hard to tell. 6 AFC Championship game for Mahomes. I don't know what else to say other than he just delivered. I still don't even think the team that he's got out there is great. Like, he had a guy that fumbled the ball into the football in a playoff game. How more cursed can his receiver core really get? I thought the running back showed up a little bit. I thought Pacheco and even Allaire got in there a little bit for a solid showing. But this is all Mahomes. I hate to say it. I don't want to discredit the team itself, and the defense itself had some few stops and defensive plays as well. But this guy's awesome. I think this was an awesome game. This was such a delivery. I could watch these matchups every week. I wish these exact two teams could play again next week. That being said, going into this week, I think I like Baltimore more, but it's really hard to just override what I just saw in Mahomes again. It just seemed like a playoff dominance. But I think Baltimore is a significantly better team overall. I don't think they're going to have the guy that fumbles in the end zone, the receiver that drops it, the running back that gets injured. Actually, they might have that. They have that problem a lot. But I don't think they're going to have it this weekend, which is why I'm going to go with Baltimore over Kansas City. I think this should be another great game. I think if it's half as good as the game we just saw, or really any of the games with this past weekend, we're going to be in for quite the weekend. But who you got this week?
I'm also going to go with the Ravens. This one, I'm going more with I don't know. It's kind of like going with my heart, but it's really more. I want to go against Mahomes, like you said. This is every year that he started, he's gone to the AFC Championship game, and so that's a wild stat. And usually Tom Brady's the one that has all these wild stats, and so I just want the Ravens to win and just push Mahomes over to the side, and we'll deal with it again next year. But for right now, just keep him out of the Super Bowl, keep him from winning a third one in his first 6 years.
I think if you're Lamar, this is huge. Like, I think there's way more pressure on Lamar, is there not? Because, as you said, Mahomes has already been there a few times and been here every year. Lamar, we've been waiting for this opportunity. We've been waiting for him to have a team good enough to kind of carry there, and that's worth it, where he doesn't have to do completely everything. And I think this is the year for it. So this is an excellent opportunity. They're going to play a good team, the Kansas City Chiefs. But like, if Lamar just shows up and is just consistent like he has been most of the year, this is huge. I can't wait for this. I think this should be a fantastic game. You got a score prediction for this one?
I think that Lamar is gonna really light it up, and I think that the Chiefs, because I think the only way they're gonna lose is if those wide receiver problems come back. Travis Kelce did score a touchdown. This is the first time in quite a time since he scored a touchdown. So I am going to go Ravens 34 and Kansas City 24.
That's exactly what I had written down.
No.
Yeah. No, that's
what?
That's exactly what I had written down.
That's not good. Anytime we're on the same page, it never goes that way.
Baltimore scored 34 last week, and the Bills had lost and only got 24 this week, and I was like, yeah, no, that sounds about right. I think it goes exactly that way. I think it's one more touchdown. If you give them the Mecole Hardman touchdown to the Chiefs, that's the score you're going to end up with. So, like, that's kind of what I was at, and I think it'll go more or less the same way. I think this is an impressive thing that Mahomes has done taking this team here, but I think this is going to be the game where we finally see the talent differential. I mean, they only forced Buffalo to punt twice as well. It wasn't like they shut them down. So like,
there's a chance Mark Andrews could come back as well. I think that could make things interesting. Although Isaiah Likely's been playing really well, so they play the same position. But Mark Andrews has been around for a while.
Look, even if they have a red zone threat in him, that would be worth it. Did you see Zach Ertz is signing with Detroit this morning?
I did not see that.
Zach Ertz this morning signed with Detroit. He's on the practice squad as of this week, and there's a good chance he plays this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Quite the move.
Well, I think if you could just have a red zone threat, like I said, big body, you could throw a fade route to him. You could probably throw a block in here or there. That's not the worst thing to have. As we're going to talk about in this next game where we have Detroit at San Francisco on Sunday, and specifically the San Francisco Green Bay Packers game, where the Packers could have easily done what they did to Dallas. They could be up 21-0 if they had anything remotely to a threat in the red zone. Just anything. Like if you're next year, I think you have to go all in on this, just knowing that if you had one guy, if you had Zach Ertz of like 5 years ago, you would be in the Super Bowl right now. Like you would win. You would have won that game against San Francisco. I just think if they had one guy they could have had as a threat in the red zone, they totally win this game. And they didn't. They didn't have Laporta. They didn't have. I mean, I like Musgrave, but I don't think it's quite the same. I thought this was a scary, scary game for the San Francisco. This was bad weather. This was bad Purdy. Debo goes out like 2 plays into this. They like kind of forget to run the ball. I think everyone has been ragging on Purdy for not playing very well, and I was like, well, stop making him throw the ball then. Just give it to McCaffrey. Why do we need to overcomplicate everything? Just if he's not having a good game, let's stop using him. And go to the best running back in the league. I think that was overlooked for the entire game. Maybe it's that they were threatened, that they were down a little bit, but I didn't like what San Francisco did in this game at all. And I thought Green Bay outplayed them from start to finish. And if they just had any threat in the goddamn red zone, they easily win this game. Is that the same game you saw, or did you see something different? Because I think this is a really, really risky game for San Francisco, where if things go differently and we're rewriting history, this is a terrible loss for San Francisco if they blow this. It still was a terrible game for them, but I didn't like it. What did you think of it?
I thought, especially after watching the Ravens-Texans, where game was close in the first half, and then Ravens the better team, just take care of business second half, call it a day. I thought the same thing was going to happen. I thought, all right, well, it's a little close. Weather seems to be a little weird. Yep, but all right, second half, 49ers are way better. He's going against Jordan Love here. All right, they're going to get it all together. But then Deebo Samuel, he gets, dinged up, and then he's out. And then the weather seems to be getting worse, and Brock seems not to be prepared for rain at all. So then they're down. They're down a touchdown going into the fourth quarter. And just looking at it, just like, is this really going to happen? I kind of had it locked in. It's like, I don't know, 49ers are for sure going to win. There's just no way. I've watched Green Bay all year. They just... every once in a while, but not against the really good teams. But I don't think it's good when I'm listening to the podcast talking about it, and one of the main things is saying, oh, well, the weather's going to be good next week, so we don't need to worry about Brock Purdy with the weather. But earlier this year when they had their little swoon, it was when Debo was hurt, and he does a lot for that offense. And so I don't think they really know exactly whether he's going to play or not. I'm sure they're going to be as cagey as possible on it. But if he's not playing, this could get a lot closer than I think people are thinking.
They became very average, like kind of immediately, and it was shocking because I know Debo hasn't played every game all year. I know he's been healthy more of the second half of the year, but I think he missed some early in the year, and
that's when they lost.
Is that it? Is it really?
Yeah.
We're pointing all this to him. I just they must have, they got to be able to figure out some success without him, and I think they have all the weapons to do it. Like I said, if Purdy's not having a great game, you have a running back that you could still gain yards in. It definitely isn't the best way to come back from, if you're down in a game, you can't run the ball and kill all the clock. You won't have enough time to come back. But I don't think you should have.
McCaffrey can play a factor in the receiving game too. You can get him out into space. It's not like he's a old school. You hand the ball off to him, he runs off tackle, and that's all he can do. You can split him out as a wide receiver. You can, have him run into the flats. I think you can get him the ball in unique ways.
I thought Purdy had some of the worst touch passes. Like there was some inaccurate stuff, and I know it's just like, oh, just drop it off to McCaffrey. These little checkdowns. It should be easier, but I just thought there was moments where just like you said, just you got to figure out a creative way to just get it to him in some space, and I just thought handing it off would have been way simpler than, like, they just ran complicated plays too. Like they ran like an elaborate offense in a terrible weather game. It was like, I don't know if this is the one you want to be really kind of slinging it between the lines, cutting it close. It just seemed over risky for me. I think they overthought a lot of the stuff what Green Bay was going to do. And maybe if Green Bay had done any of that, like I said, if they get one more touchdown, I think this game's over. Out of the 3 times they showed up there the first quarter, like they could have put this game away. It's amazing. And yet they didn't.
They really had an opportunity for it.
And yet they didn't. So you mentioned all the woes of San Francisco and the potential of them continuing. Detroit, man, that home crowd couldn't have been any better. Delivered again, back-to-back weeks. Really, really fun. This is an exciting game. I mean, Baker being Baker, I think the only thing I could say is Baker's a starter in this league. I don't care what anyone says. If he could just avoid some awful, awful detrimental sacks a little bit more often, he'd be there. He'd be exactly, I think, where he is right now. I think there's a lot of teams in the league, if he was playing for them, they would have had a better chance than they did getting to where Tampa Bay got this year. Mike Evans had a pretty big game stats-wise. I still thought he had some drops, though, right? Like, the touchdown, we feel like we bailed him out on a whole bunch of stuff, but if he caught everything, he'd have even more yards and even more, I think even one more touchdown. I think it's a lot more about Detroit than it says about Tampa Bay, but perhaps Tampa Bay peaked, and I don't think they should have anything. Like, if you're them, this is also a win for them. I mean, Baker isn't exactly C.J. Stroud here, where it's like, hey, we got our guy, but I think you took this team pretty far considering the circumstances. All that said, what are your thoughts on Detroit and San Francisco? Are they going to have to score a bunch of points? Are they going to be able to stop San Francisco? We don't have to worry about weather, right? So what are your thoughts?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
We'll see. I'm hearing it's supposed to be nice out, but, I mean, it rained. It rained on Sunday.
I'm going to go with Detroit. Who you got?
Yeah, I'm going to go. Yeah, I'm going to go with the Lions. Or no, I'm not. I'm going with the 49ers. Even if they don't have Debo, I think that the Lions have gone on their nice little run, but I think this is gonna come to an end before the Super Bowl.
I'm not even convinced that the Lions are the better team. I just think that they're going to be the better team next week. If Debo's out
on the road when they're not playing in their friendly confines.
Yeah, no, I do. I think that look, the offense for San Francisco is going to have to show up. If they get off to a slow start like they did against the Packers, they're not going to win. Like they're lucky the Packers don't have an actual offensive threat and weren't able to bury them. I think Detroit has that. Like, if they gave the same opportunities to Detroit, they win that game. I mean, we're really counting on the San Francisco team that played last week to not show up and the team that we've seen all year to be the team that shows up this next week. I'm not entirely sold on all that, and I think Purdy being a little shaky has me even more nervous. Like, you think there's going to be no problem. Like, Purdy's going to be great this next game at home. No problem.
I think he's going to be better than he was this week.
That won't be hard to do.
And remember, he's not going against Mahomes on the other side.
No, but
Jared Goff has been serviceable, but it's not, our automatic, first ballot Hall of Famer he's dealing with.
No, but some of the guys around him, Amon-Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs, Laporta, those are feeling like some real threats that I'm going to be saying and names that we're all going to be knowing for quite some time. And it's only a rookie for two of them. I guess I'm just more in love with that than I am with what I saw out of San Francisco this past week. And there's a little bit of nobody believes in us too. That I'm riding that wave. So that's what I'm going
with the Lions.
With the exactly. Yes, it's never happened. It's never going to happen. I mean, it's probably going to be like what happened to Buffalo this past week, where it just gets their souls just get taken from them at the very end. But I'm going to ride that out and hope that it doesn't happen.
I guess I haven't gotten the no one believes in us feel from them.
So you think everyone does believe in them? I don't think I've heard anyone. I mean, who's picking them in this game? You think that this is going to be like a toss up?
No, it's just like Green Bay for sure was no one believes in them, but I don't think I've got that from the Lions. They've just been on a nice run, and I feel like a ton of people are just in like soccer mom, like, oh, it's just so nice for them. Look at them, like they're just having a nice run. Oh, it's so nice. Detroit's been bad for so long. I'm so happy for them.
All right, well, that's an opinion. That's one reason to not root for them, I guess, and to mock me for rooting them for that reason.
No, I'm not. I'm saying that is what the narrative that I've been hearing has been, that more than, oh, 49ers are amazing, Lions have no chance, don't even bother showing up, that sort of thing.
All right, you can have Jason Kelce and Taylor Swift show up to one of these games. Which one do you want them at?
Well, of course they're going to go to the Chiefs game.
Yeah, but if you could put them on the other game, you wouldn't watch that game more?
No.
No draw. Only the other game.
Clearly one of these games is way better than the other one.
Yeah, no, it is. And the Kelce celebration was fantastic. I liked it. I thought it was hilarious.
Jason's or Travis's?
Jason's, where the beer can looks like a juice box in his hand with his shirt off.
It is so tiny.
With his shirt off.
It's so tiny. He's having a great time.
Beating his chest
out. It's just so funny
crowd.
Because we think about football games and we're from the fans' perspective. So it's all right. Yeah, there's tailgating. It's all that part of it. You go to the game, you watch it, but then you just don't really think about it so much. It's like, oh yeah, from the player's point of view, all of that, they don't do any of that. They've never done any of that because they've always been playing football. So to see him just on the other side and just having a great time, there was a video of him at the tailgate earlier, which, he's rooting for the other team, but Bills Mafia seemed to be a fan of him as he did a shot out of a bowling ball, and then it was on TV, and I didn't think that anyone would be able to steal the spotlight from Taylor Swift, especially up in that box. But I think he did.
It didn't seem like that was his goal either. It very much seemed like, no, I'm in Buffalo. I'm gonna do this if I'm doing this. So
I don't think there was any sort of thought of, oh, well, I want to steal, the spotlight from someone. I think it was, hey, I possibly retired, so I don't need to worry about this anymore, and I'm just gonna crush beers and I'm gonna just have a good time. And when my brother scores and then throws the heart up towards me, I'm gonna enjoy it.
Oh man, don't offend the Taylor Swifties. You don't want to do that. That's a mafia you can't fend off. You won't win that one. Right? That's not like the Bills Mafia.
Oh, so you're saying girlfriend over family?
I'm saying if we're a podcast and we had to pick a fan base to go up against, like war-wise, I wouldn't want to go against the Swifties. I'd rather go against Bills Mafia.
Oh, okay.
That's all I'm saying. It's a ridiculous
I don't think
scenario.
Bills Mafia was on the other side of this, but it could have been for his mom. Who knows?
It was more.
She's normally up there.
It was more a play on the. I can't do this. Get me out of this. NBA. There was a trade. Anything else from the NFL? We're getting towards the end of the year here. Does it feel like we got the teams we deserved?
Yeah, I think so. You definitely want Mahomes in there. The way Lamar's been playing, where, like I said, it looks like he's going to be the MVP. Lions definitely were much better than I expected. I'm gonna have to go back and listen, but I'm pretty sure you were higher than them with that strong finish last year, and I said, nope, this is fool's gold. Don't trust it. So looks like I was wrong there. I guess the only other, rather than the Lions, I mean, it's a good story, but kind of midway through the year would have thought the Eagles for sure. making it back to the Super Bowl, or at least going against the 49ers again, and then it being more of a kind of like an even playing field with, not having the quarterback issues like they did last year. But I think down the stretch, Eagles very much were not the team, and then maybe Dallas. So yeah, I think it had to be of the four, those three, and then the Lions. I'm fine with the way that they finished the season out.
3 out of the 4 games this weekend, there was a point far into the game where I was like, I don't know how this is gonna end. Like I don't know. So like that was a fun feeling to have pretty much the whole weekend of like, hey, you really got to keep watching this because I don't know what's gonna happen. Like this is wild right now. What's happening? Like this is a game. Anything, the next person who blinks is gonna lose. If I can get that feeling out of one of the 2 games this weekend, we're doing good. We're doing good because I think we got a good shot at one of them. But that's a fun playoff football is fun. Like whether the lead changes are just happening and the punches are just being exchanged. It's great. It was great to see some points on the board too. We didn't get like a true defensive shutout where it's like, all right, 9-6, nobody scored. There's snow all over the field. It's negative 100 out, and the offenses aren't showing up today. It's like there was a lot to cheer for the whole weekend. Great crowds, fun weekend. Can't wait for this one. Let's move on to the NBA. There was a trade. Pascal Siakam's been traded to Indiana. Did we do this last week? I think this happened between last week and this one, right?
No, we talked about the huge blockbuster trade that sent Marvin Bagley to the Wizards.
I did make time for that last week. I go back and I listen to these and like, I don't know why that one should have got the axe. Like this, like Lorne Michael at SNL, all the pitches he gets, I got to learn how to do that. I got to just chop it off. It's like, no, this is a bad idea. But this was a good idea. And I think it was a good idea both ways. Indiana gets Siakam, and he's already signed, or sounds like he's going to re-sign with them for an extension of a contract, which is part of the issue of trading, or really trading for anybody, is you got to give up something to get these guys, and then you got to hope that they stay. And it's like, well, why do I got to give something up, and then he's going to leave? That doesn't sound good. That's not great. But nobody's really showing up and signing up to go to Indiana. So I kind of like the moves that they made. I thought if you're Toronto, receiving Bruce Brown and a couple picks isn't the worst rebuilding move. I think Bruce Brown is one of the easiest pieces you could move this year, and if you wanted to move him again, you could. And I think he's one of the easiest pieces to fit in just about any offense. So maybe this Toronto thing works out a little bit better with him. But I like the trade both ways. I thought both teams got better. Is this going to be the new norm of NBA trades where I'm like, hey, both teams got better? This is great. Like, when's the next one where it's like this team got hosed, Danny Ainge was involved, nobody had a chance? I like this one. What do you think?
I mean, I got to imagine just like the players get better every year and nutrition gets better and training gets better, I would think that the guys at the top would also get better as you get better people around you. You have more of a history of looking and seeing, hey, when guys do this, it doesn't work. Or, hey, here's a big swing. I think that it's a big swing by the Pacers. Siakam, I think, can make a difference this year. I think we've seen in Toronto, if he has to be the main guy or maybe even the second guy, that's a little too much for him. But if he has more of a Tobias Harris role, like on the Sixers, like he could outdo those expectations. Where if he got traded somewhere and they wanted to hand the ball and say, "Hey, you're the main guy," I think that's going to be disappointed for everyone. And I don't think the Pacers really gave up that much. I mean, the headline is 2 first-round picks. Was it 2? Or no, I think it was 3. But
it's 3. 2 are theirs,
3.
1 someone else, or 2 are someone else's and 1's theirs. I can't remember.
No, 2 of them are theirs. One of them is the worst of Utah, Houston, the Clippers, or Oklahoma City. And the Clippers are, I think, in 4th, and Oklahoma City's at 2. So you're gonna get a pick. You're giving away a pick in the high 20s. So it's just one thing to remember when we see, wow, this many first round picks, and here in this year's draft does not look to be that good or that deep. So, yep, it's 3 picks, but 2 of them are this year and are going to be in the 20s. I think this is a good move, as well as getting Siakam will probably make you better and make that pick worse. So I think from Indiana, I think it was a lot of definitely, you're giving up some assets. Definitely there's a risk if something were to happen and he were to walk away. But I got to believe there was some sort of kind of wink deal of, hey, if we trade for you, right, like, would you be cool with signing here? And so I expect him to sign I guess it wouldn't be an extension. Would sign in free agency this offseason.
Yeah, I agree that Toronto didn't necessarily get like a monster piece of it all, but I thought they got some good like stocking stuffers that they can package together with some trades. Like they could take all three of those picks and add it to blank player and get who knows what, and like nothing major, but I think that's all it's going to be used for. Like it's not going to be a truly built rebuilding piece. It's going to be a package for something else in the future. And I'm sure that
Yeah, but the Raptors right now are not. They're not even a playoff team. They're not even a play-in team right now. So yeah, they're in the perfect spot to say, all right, start selling off the pieces. I think they've already kind of been doing that a little bit. I think they really don't want to, but I think there's going to be more of that coming, and they're in the all right asset accumulation phase.
well, all right. Well, let's do the flip side of it. You said they're not that good of a team. Well, at the end of the year, you got to decide whether or not you want to keep Siakam, and then you either pay him a ton of money for being what the 12th, 14th best team in the league or in the East, the 12th right now, or you let him go and you get nothing. So I think this was good. This is it's not a great situation you're in. Okay, but this
now
is
there's
better.
no pressure in the offseason to sign him to a deal that's way too big, but it's the well, if we don't give the money to him, who are we going to give it to? We got to give it to somebody. We can't have it. The PR of oh no, we ran him out of town. We lowballed him. So this makes it just easier for management, I think.
I like the move. All right, speaking of hot teams in the league, the Clippers ended the game last night on a 22-0 run, which they were down. I think 11. I don't know. It was stupid. It's just crazy. They're one of the hottest teams in the league. They're not playing so great on the road though. All right, I was going to come in here and say a whole bunch of nice things about them and how impressive the 22-0 run was, and it is impressive. But I can't just give them everything right now. They're 9-11 on the road. They're one of the most successful teams to be under 500 on the road. It's soon going to be fixed. This is probably the only podcast where I'm going to get away with saying that, so I'm going to say it. You know how many wins you want to know the Lakers record on the road? This will make you happy.
What is it?
6-14.
That seems bad.
It's not good. It's really bad actually. It's one of the worst in the leagues. 22-0 run. Have you ever been a part of anything like this? This is basically getting skunked out. You never score again. You were winning in a controllable situation, and it just all went away.
Do you happen to know what the timing of it was? Like, was it 4 minutes to go or 6 minutes to go? I know that usually isn't in those articles, but just curious when you were watching.
I would say
just out of feel
under 5 minutes. I want to say 4:48 if I was watching it.
Man, that's a long time to not even just no field goals. Just you didn't even get fouled. Nothing. That's just rough. It wasn't like they were down 20 and then they just barely eked it out. So definitely down the stretch is you're jacking up threes and then you're fouling. So it's inflated a little bit. But really, I just wanted to put that on there because when the Harden trade happened, we definitely poo-pooed it. We laughed at it. We jeered at it. We had a good time. And then they immediately lost, 5 in a row? They lost a whole bunch of games in a row, and we laughed some more. And then they've kind of quietly been really turning things around. If the season were to end today, they would be hosting the first round of the playoffs. So just wanted to, wanted to check in a little bit, make sure, we jeer when we get the opportunity, but maybe have to give them a little bit of credit. I've been shocked that the team's been healthy this whole time. And specifically Kawhi and Paul George, they've been playing a lot. And I think that's always been the thought with years ago when they put these guys together, but then they've just never been healthy. And it's been off and on or both are hurt. But I don't think it's necessarily because Harden's there. I think it's because all of them are there. And just somehow all those guys, something's working right now.
They seem happy. They play together. They play a fun game of basketball. Everyone touches it. It's pretty hard to combat. I'm threatened. I'm with you. I think we misjudged this one. I don't know if they're one injury away, and that's what holds them back, or if we're all just on notice. This team is kind of kicking ass and playing really well. Kawhi's great right now.
I'm not willing to say that I was wrong yet because it's still early. How long's Harden been there now for? A month? 2 months? This is early. He's still in the honeymoon phase. I'm going to wait a little bit longer, see if these guys keep playing. But I'm at least willing to say, hey, they're playing well, and we got to be aware of them. They're not on 5-game losing streaks anymore.
Speaking of losing, The Celtics have lost their first game at home. Man, we almost had it. It was a decent game against Denver, too. I didn't like the record going into it, and I'm almost happier that it was Denver that we lost it to, and it wasn't like, all right, off double night or back-to-back to Detroit at home. We blew it all. Like, we could have had the record, and we didn't have it. And I also like that it wasn't a blowout, that we had a chance to win that game. And we have a chance to win every game. That's the best part about the Celtics this year. We're really never out of a game. Are you bummed to not have the record?
Obviously, you never like losing. It was really cool that we'd gone so long winning at home, no losses. But you just mentioned the Lakers road record. It's just okay. We lost one at home. Well, that's too bad. It's like, well, what's the next closest? It's like, well, the Bucks have lost 4 at home. I guess the Timberwolves have lost 3 at home. So we're still in the lead. We still have a 3.5 game lead on the Bucks. We're still the best. Got the best record in the league. I told myself before going into that game, whichever way it goes, that I'm not going to get too high or too low. Whichever way it goes. I was seeing some stats today that were saying that despite kind of what we've been seeing, the Celtics have, I think it was top 5 in clutch offense and top 5 in clutch net rating, which just this game, I don't know. It just, every time it seems like we're playing like a really good team, and that's what we're going to play in the playoffs. We just have these struggles. And just until we get to the playoffs, until we get past them, it's always going to kind of be back there of, hey, what's going to happen here? And the whole idea was Porzingis was supposed to help with this. But like you said, not only did we have a chance, Jason Tatum missed a mid-range fadeaway buzzer beater. Like, I sign up for that against the Nuggets, all the time. That's kind of where you want to be. Ideally, you're not having to hit a buzzer beater to win the game, but Nuggets are maybe not the team with the best record, but I think everyone's in agreement that they are still the team to beat. So we still got some room for improvement. So I think maybe that'll help. I know in the past we've been the team that until our backs are against the wall, maybe we just don't quite play our absolute hardest. So I was almost thinking, if we won this game, do we just almost try to start coasting? It's like, look at all these teams that we beat. Just now we're just worried about the playoffs. We're bored. It's January, February, but now realizing, hey, you know what? We still got a ways we got to go. We still need to get this right. We still need to sharpen some things up.
Wait, this team needs to stay together during all of this all-star nonsense. 2 of them are going to get in. 2 of them aren't, and that's just the way it is. I know there's in the
past. Isn't it easy though? It's Tatum and Brown. Porzingis has been hurt too much and rests too much, and Derek White has fallen off in the past few weeks.
I didn't tell you this. I was going to pitch you a segment where I was like, all right, I want you to list out the All-Stars, and I'm just going to argue Derek White against every one of them and see if they pass, they're an actual All-Star. If they don't, it's like, you're not a real All-Star.
I think 2 or 3 weeks ago, you really could have done that, but I think that he started off hot. He was doing all of the things, and then just more recently, it's dipped. I still, as a Celtics fan, he is still awesome on the team in the context for what we need on the team. But All-Star is a big jump up. That's a hefty thing for a guy like Derek White to get to. It'd be awesome if he did, but I don't think that him missing the All-Star game is going to tear this team apart. I sure hope it doesn't.
No, that's the joke. But I know another team that's in the same circumstance, and that's the Phoenix Suns. They got a whole bunch of stars there, and only a couple guys are going to get in. And the reality is only one of them should, and it's Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen's the only one that should make the All-Star team on Phoenix. I don't care. Have you seen his what is it, 50, 40, 90? And he's actually almost
50,
shooting
40, 90.
He's almost shooting like 45 from 3 also. It's not even just 40. It's like way higher.
What he set the was it? I don't think it was a actual record. It was just his record. What was it? 7 threes made in a half?
Like, he's making the most of an opportunity. I don't know if it's necessarily enough, and I don't know if Phoenix is happy with where they're at this year, but I gotta give Guy a credit for just like, hey, I'm gonna be open to shoot threes. I'm gonna make every one of them. Like, I get to play with all these guys and cut and slash and drive while they're double teaming Durant, like, yeah, I'm going to take the advantage of this. So I'm just giving him credit. I've been hard on Grayson in the past, but at this,
I was not expecting this.
I wasn't actually going to pitch him as an all-star, but I was going to say this is the real team that's going to get sabotaged when, Grayson Allen gets more all-star votes than anyone else on the team. It won't happen. But
I was not expecting this. Any nice comments coming Grayson Allen's way ever from you. So this is a little bit speechless here.
Well, are you ready to talk about his alma mater then? Let's just transfer to some college.
Well, let me just finish off on the Suns talk of it is national champion Grayson Allen, and I'm glad that he's playing well. Obviously, I'm on Grayson's side way more than the average fan, which is always on the negative side. I thought he got real bad rap last year, the way the Bucks season ended, where he got tossed basically a hot potato and had to try to figure something out, and tried to throw up a shot, but ran out of time. But it's like, well, you get handed a hot potato, you try the best you can, and then when the Suns signed him, there was a lot of talk of. I shouldn't say a lot of talk. It was almost like there wasn't much talk. It was just kind of like, this guy, white shooter, and we'll see. So glad that he's taking advantage of the role. So now we can move on to whatever next topic you possibly have.
Well, I'm just you give me the list, right? I have the college basketball list right here, and the first thing you wrote at the top was Duke upset at home, and I only mentioned the wording of these very specifically because the Michigan State win that you also included on the list, we stole the win. You were upset, you were barely looking down on everyone in all this, where we didn't earn the win, we stole it, all right? We didn't get a paycheck, we robbed the bank. Like what happened this week? All right, well, what's going on? You guys are losing, we're winning.
Well, I didn't like it going into it because last week a couple of Duke podcasts that I listened to and started to do the look ahead. And the look ahead was, UNC undefeated in ACC play, now they're number 3 in the country, moving right up, and started to do, hey, first week in February we play UNC, and started to look at the schedule. It's like, okay, well, we got Pitt, and we just beat them by 20 plus at their place, and then we got Louisville, and then you just like start doing it's like. If we could go into that UNC game with only one ACC loss and just. This team is not that good. They have been absolutely dominating the whole year where you can do that game of looking out 2-3 weeks and saying, all right, no, these could be wins. These could be wins. And sure enough, we had been out for a week. For some reason, we had a weird schedule fluke where we didn't play during the week. And immediately, I think we went down 9-0, and we fought back into it, but just never really got our mojo back. This guy on Pitt, Blake Hinson, goes 7 for 7 from 3. And now I could be pretty, unbiased in this, where sometimes he's just like the defense is not working right, and the rotation, and you got a guy, he's wide open. This dude Hinson, you should go and look. You should go look at these threes. He's got guys draped all over him. I'm talking end of shot clock, and somehow he's just getting these in, and just to go 100%. Was very impressive. He was all sorts of excited. He oh man, did he give it to the crazies after the game? He jumped up on the it's not the scorer's table, but it's like up on the side there, and oh boy, he have some words. So you gotta show up. You gotta defend your home court. So I didn't like that. Like I said, 8-game win streak gone. Gotta get a quick turnaround. The one, I guess, sort of silver lining or excuse, depending on how you want to look at it, is we were missing 2 starters. Jeremy Roach and Mark Mitchell were both hurt. Quick turnaround because we're playing tomorrow, and I guess if they practice today, they might play. So hopefully that's the case. But against Pitt at home, and then playing Louisville, those are, even if you got starters out, you should still win those games. So hopefully we can get our act together and get the wins rolling again. So.
Well, at least you were kind of able to show your composure after a loss. You didn't do, any sort of gang signs or horn down signs. I mean, you're going to have to explain this whole story to me. Who's upset?
Okay. All right. So, Texas. Now, this is for, I guess it's probably for all their sports, but for football and, for basketball, the more Premier Sports, if you will. They do the horns. It's a hand gesture. It's like kind of looks like horns because that's their mascot. Well, as you might imagine, it's college sports, and so if you are going against Texas, you will do the horns down. Now, all you do is you make the same gesture with your hands. You just turn it upside down. Have you seen the Louisville? They do the L's.
Sure. Yeah. I know.
Yeah. You make an L with your hands. Well, yes. If you're going against Louisville, as Kentucky is usually the main one as being their rivals, is you do L's down. It's not that crazy to some. So earlier in the week, UCF upset Texas, and their coach Rodney Terry was not happy. He called it classless, and he confronted several of the players in the handshake line about doing the horns down. To me, total sour grapes. So now on Saturday, after he gets a big win against Baylor, now he's apologizing. Oh, I shouldn't have done that. After a win. I think that we're having some trouble with these college coaches. We just had the Purdue coach. He was very upset about court storming a couple of weeks ago when his team got court stormed. I think that these coaches got a lot of sour grapes, and they've really got to dial this back. You know what? When you win, you get to have a good time. When you lose, you know what? Your team is going to throw your own gesture upside down in your face, and you're going to have to be an adult, and you're just going to have to take it. The same way the Cameron Craze had to take it that some guy came into their gym, went 7 for 7, and hopped up and talked all sorts of smack to them. Just next time win, and then you don't have to worry about this.
All right, but there are some rules to all of this. This is kind of like the don't kill the bar thing. Like if you're gonna court storm, you can't run into any of the players. The Caitlin Clark thing, I don't care whose fault you want to say it is. You're not supposed to be there. She's supposed to be there. Like you're never gonna convince me the argument that this isn't the fans' fault. You're not supposed to be on the court. You're not a player. If you're gonna celebrate, do it responsibly, like we do for everything else. All right, don't kill the bar. Don't kill court storming, because I think we got a real problem on our hands. I mean, this fan didn't just hit any player. It hit Caitlin Clark. I think there's some stature with all of this, and I don't know what the discipline's going to be, but I just don't kill the bar, right? Like, can we just common sense?
Oh, yeah. And I think 99% of the time, because there was also an issue on Saturday, I can't remember the team now, where one of the fans ran into one of the opposing players, and I think it was a little more on purpose. But I think 99% of the time, everybody gets it. You don't go over to the other team, one, because they're way bigger than you, and just don't do it. You just go right to everyone goes right to the middle. There's a mosh pit. You cheer. You're positive with your players. It's got nothing to do with the other team. You don't care about the other team. You just beat them. You got to court storm them. It was an upset. You're having a fun time. Yeah, like you said. Don't ruin it for everybody.
All right. I got 2 predictions this week. I'm new to this, all right? It's college basketball. I'm handing out winners right now. I got 2 teams I think are going to win this week.
Okay.
Tuesday, BYU is going to beat Houston. Lock it in.
Ooh, okay. That was one of the teams on my list. That is Houston's number 4 in the country. BYU is number 21.
BYU has actually been through a schedule of hell, and if they can get through this, it doesn't really get any easier. But I think they just had a hard enough schedule. If you look at the last couple teams, they played a lot of ranked guys, and it just seems like a bit of a trap game for Houston. And I think BYU is a decent team, so I got that one. I don't really have a whole lot of details on why. It's more of just I'm basing it on the numbers of the schedule. All right, they beat this, they lost to that, they're doing that. I could see a route to BYU being successful and competitive in this game, and it's also way more exciting if it's like I picked the fourth team in the country to go down. So get ready for that.
I like it. One thing to note in this game: these are both 2 teams that are new to the Big 12. So normally these teams would have only played out of conference, and well, with conference alignment constantly realigning itself, maybe this it goes on for a while, but this could be the start of a rivalry, so that would be cool.
All right, next one, Friday, Michigan State. We're doing it. We're taking it on Wisconsin. Just lock it in.
Ooh.
All right. We are the best.
At your place or at their place?
We're on the road.
Ooh, Kohl Center. Okay.
We're on the road. We're taking the Badgers on. We're the best bad team in the country. It's statistically good. I
That's what the
test
analytics say.
I test bad. Like that's I don't even know what the word is for that. This the one where the numbers don't lie, but the eye test does. Like that's Michigan State. But we're gonna figure it out. We've been scoring a ton of points. We haven't been able to score early in the year, and then we just started giving up so much points off it. Like our defense started falling apart. We're gonna get it together. I think we've been yelled at quite enough times that they're just there's gonna be some games where it all clicks, and I think this is gonna be a game where it does, or this is gonna be a complete disaster. One or the other. I don't know. I those are my wins for this week, though. What else are you keeping an eye on this week?
I just have two more. I put Alabama on the list last week, saying on Saturday Alabama Tennessee was going to be one of the best games of the weekend, and then Tennessee came out and just thrashed them. So not the best, but I'm going to put them on the list again on Wednesday. Auburn coming in at number 8. They're going to Alabama. I think Alabama still plays a very modern offense. I think that even though they're coming in unranked, they're very dangerous to Auburn. And then on Saturday, Kansas at Iowa State. Kansas got upset last week, so they're at 7. Iowa State's at 23. But I think that'll be a good one.
Fun stuff for college football. We're getting real close to March. We need to come up with another stupid punishment for this awful bet that we have. I'm willing to bet this year that if I win, we don't have to do this damn bet anymore. But I don't know if you're going to agree to that.
So if you win, then it just ends.
It just ends. It's just over.
And then I don't have to do a punishment?
No punishment.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to think about that one.
Yeah, but then you don't get to counter with another idea the next year. It's like, no, it's out. All right, we do this, but the bet part is done. I'm done with the videos, the consequences. It is an age range of it all. Or we could suspend it for a certain amount of time, which will make it even more punishing when it's like I have to do a 20-year-old punishment at the age of 40. It's gonna be great. It's just. I'm
interesting. I did not know. I didn't think this was gonna be on the table. Okay, I'll have to think this through and see if I think this is to my advantage or not.
I'm not even prepared to give any more ideas to you winning. Like I'm just. It's gonna end. I'm gonna end. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna knock it all out. I'm working on you now. It's January 22nd. I got basically a month and a half to kind of incept your mind with whatever the idea is here of walking away from this awful bet.
You're coming in confident. You're giving out college winners already. Oof, 2 of them.
I think I'm just trying to throw you off the scent now. I think I've figured you out already. It's Duke's going to win it every single year, and then maybe pick like one other ACC team so that his team feels better, and then I kind of know what your favorites are. You know me, I'm new to this, right? You don't even know.
Wild card.
Big wild card, and not only that, I've had the wild card teams of the past between being Syracuse and Michigan State that. It's like you're just picking this to be reckless. Like they're not even favored. It's just wild.
Complete recklessness.
Coming up close. I don't. Do you have any punishment things you want to throw out there right now? I got nothing. I just know that we got to start promoting this at some point.
I haven't really started doing my deep dive into punishments just yet, but I'm sure I can rustle up some good ones.
All right, we're gonna close things out with Marvel ? And this is very much a question and answer sort of segment here where we're going to try to educate each other on 2 things that neither of us are very sophisticated on. I believe you added some questions on some movie trailers that you saw this week, of which we're somewhat in tune. You know, we watch a lot of stuff, but I guess you were confused or had some questions on which trailer was it?
Lady Spider-Man?
Madam Web?
Is that what it is?
That's what it is.
Okay.
It's a comic book, all right? It's a comic book movie. This is not part of the... All right, this is going to sound stupid. It is a Marvel comic book, but it is not part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This was one of the...
Oh, this is like the Fox deal where they have to continue to make it, otherwise they lose it?
This is part of the Venom universe, so there's Venom 1, Venom 2. I think there's a Morbius movie that is also included in all of this. And this was kind of initially started prior to everyone being bought and merged and kind of under the same, tent or whatever you want to call it, the same umbrella. But I'm still not sure if this is going to ever cross over to the real thing of that, but the theory beyond it all is that this is a different universe. All right, so this is happening, but it's not happening with any of the other movies. It's happening at the same time or before or after, but it's completely unrelated. There was a long shot, and still might be a shot, where they do. There's a Spider-Man in this universe, I assume. They haven't shown us who it is yet, and it may be one of the past. It may be like a Tobey Maguire or an Andrew Garfield one, and not the current one in Tom Holland. I don't think this is going to clarify anything for you, but I'm. They didn't make it easy for me to explain. I hate that I feel like I'm being punished for being bad explaining this because it's terribly explained in general. Like none of this makes any sense. It's
very confusing that there's Marvel and then there's just Marvel adjacent, but because it's owned by a different company, that there's like this whole other universe except for Spider-Man, and that is just like this weird contract that they just have to keep putting out these movies or they lose all of it. So I just feel like all of these have felt a little bit forced, and I think in general, I mean, I'm drifting farther and farther away from the Marvel, as there's just so much of it. But it was not often that one just comes out of complete nowhere. I usually you hear, years beforehand, okay, they're doing this, but when I saw it, it's like Madam Web, they're doing a lady Spider-Man, and then going through, it's like, oh, okay, this isn't the Marvel one, this is the other side. So it took me a little bit to figure it out, but I was definitely surprised. One of those ones where you got the commercials on mute and seeing it said, whoa, hold on, let me turn the sound down for this. This might be interesting. What do you got going on here? So I had to figure it out and figure you were my Marvel person to go to. So I thought you might be able to clarify a little bit. Yeah, so I think it was helpful. I think it's a complicated situation.
I'm not even sure if I explained it properly either. The thing is, somebody who knows actually what they're talking about to be like, no, it's not exactly that. This is the reason. You're right, but it's not it's another reason. I don't know. I got the businesses right, but the Marvel situation that they're all in now, where everyone's being really overcritical of these superhero movies as if they're supposed to be like these art piece sets. It's like they're still based on comic books, right? This isn't like a Shakespeare script turned into Aaron Sorkin something. Like it's still limited, I think, into all of this, and that there's this expectation of your mind being blown. Every superhero movie is it's just not going to happen anymore. We made too many of these. I also think if you look back in time at the real timeline, we start with Iron Man and all of that. We're lower scale on everything. They kept upping the ante of showing like, all right, this is Iron Man in this world, and the world just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger until it was the universe, and then they got bigger in the universe. They're like, well, let's just do other universes, because what else can we do to make this even bigger and expand? That it's expanded into irrelevance is what's happened. Like it's. What they're going to do in the next couple of movies in the future is they're going to bring it back down to kind of a street scale, and I think we have hope that maybe we'll enjoy those a little bit more and take a breather off of all the universe fantasies of the comic book world. Because that's just, it doesn't make sense, and it's not supposed to make sense, but everyone wants it to. This isn't fact. This isn't based on everything. There's certainly some inspiration of mythologies and all sorts of other original stuff, but it's a very limited concept still. It's a comic book. A lot of these things didn't have words. We get a whole movie out of this. There's certainly interpretation. I don't know what else to say about this Marvel situation other than that. Is that helpful? Was that good? Is this a segment you wanted to have here? Like I said, Marvel ? Was all I wrote down.
That's kind of what I had. I was interested to hear you mention that they're going to bring the Defenders back, which are like you said, the more street level superheroes. But on top of that, it's just also the business side of it. Of these were Marvel properties that were on Netflix, and then when Disney came out with Disney Plus, they took them away from Netflix and said, we're not making these anymore. They almost kind of got shelved. But more recently, they've put them in where if you're looking for Marvel movies, these come up. You no longer have to go way out of your way to try to find them. And I just thought that was an interesting way of doing it, because I thought that they were pretty popular with their TV. They weren't in theaters. With any of these streaming, we don't really know how many people are watching them, but I felt like they always got good reviews. I enjoyed watching them. There were 4 main ones. Then there was Punisher, and then they had a season where almost Avengers like they came together. It was different, which I liked, but I think they were able to at a smaller scale do more niche things, which now I think that they're trying to do with the movies, and I think it's really hard to attract a mainstream audience when you have these very niche areas where I think it's much easier to do it, whether it's on Netflix or Disney Plus, just doing it streaming wise. So I hope that they continue to do it. But you were saying you only watched Daredevil and you didn't watch the other ones because they said in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't impact, the big movies. And I'm wondering now that it has gotten so big, and I feel like it almost feel like homework that, all right, the new Marvel movie's coming out. It's like, well, how many movies do I have to watch before it to get it? It's like, well, there's 16 of them. It's like, does now knowing that these are separate, they're in the same universe, but you could just watch these on their own, does it have more of an appeal to you?
I'm just bummed that they told me it will never be included with everything. And when I tell you they did everything in their power to try to not include this Daredevil show that's coming up and hopefully going to get released either this year or next year has been rewritten so many times. They finally got the Echo series out, and that is a bit of a lead up and a build up into all of this. And it does involve some of the characters that you may have mentioned of the Netflix series as well. So like everyone is referenced, and it has a little turn in some of it in some way. But I just frustrated. They told me you don't need to watch all of this; it's irrelevant. And then the second it went back into their hands, fell back into Disney hands, they were like, "Oh, now you're not on Netflix anymore. You have to watch this. Like it's included in everything. Like you need to know all of this." It's a business scheme, I suppose, but it just I didn't like that. You're not winning me over for all of this. If anything, I'm more motivated to not watch it. It is encouraging that you said they were better because I haven't exactly seen a great Marvel thing in quite some time. So maybe I got to go back in time to when it was good, and then that was just a better era.
I'm really wondering if that's one of the reasons that they're putting it back in a prominent spot is just when they came out. I mean, they're still printing money, but at the time it was, twice a year, big Marvel events. So these off to the side, these Netflix shows were just, a little more on the fringe, and they thought, oh well, we can just make these movies forever. And now that they've, what do you want to call it? Hit a rough patch, where when they put these movies out, I mean, people are still going to see them, but they're not making nearly as much money as they used to. And I think a lot of it has to do with the quality of them. Where looking back, going, oh wait a minute, we already have these Netflix shows that are standalone basically, and we know they're already good. Like, yeah, let's make sure that these get back out there, and maybe they're going to try to build off of this. But I think that some of these that you would enjoy because they're. I'm trying to think. I don't think they were like the full 24 episode seasons. I think they were closer to 10 or 12, so a little more digestible. And I think it was cool that they technically take place in the big Marvel universe, but you didn't have to watch a ton of stuff beforehand. You could just go in and, all right, now we're in Hell's Kitchen. We're in New York. Like they're all in New York. They're all in different sections of New York. And it just kind of brought it down a little smaller where, like you said, Marvel keeps getting bigger and bigger, and it's in outer space, and there's just so many things happening. It was just nice to just bring it down, simplify it.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I'll tune into it at some point. It's a lot of homework. I think the reason the show or the movies haven't been quite as popular is the characters aren't quite the same, and I don't think the characters that they've made the movies on, the most recent movies on, have been the most popular. And I think there's a hope that when they introduce a lot of our favorite X-Men characters in these new movies, that will buy back into it, as well as all of the characters you just mentioned. It seemed to have a decent fan base of people who already have familiar with the content as well. You could just rope those guys back in rather than trying to force everyone to like the last couple movies, whether it was Captain Marvel. I mean, I think they missed. I mean, the pandemic was a huge hit on everyone. I think that was just a momentum killer for everything. I don't know if they executed the plan post kind of Robert Downey Jr. as well as they wanted to anyways, but it's the characters that you want to follow. It's the characters that you care about. I think losing, what was it, Chadwick Boseman too, he dies in real life like that. You can't tell me that was part of everyone's plan. Black Panther 2 probably would have been the biggest movie in the world if he's in it, and instead it's almost like a memorial of his actual life. He's not even in the movie. That was a miss in an unfortunate situation that I think upsets what we ended up with. Like that should have been a hit. I think everyone enjoyed Black Panther 1. I think we would have enjoyed Black Panther 2. if it was more similar to that. So like there's just a couple things I think that just if they could do things differently, if they had control over everything, then they would, but they don't. It's also it's just a movie too. Like it was fun for a little bit there where it felt like it was a little bit more in a movie, but looking back at it, it's like it was just a movie. They're all still just movies.
Lots of movies.
Lots of time. All right, we got to get out of here. We've been going a little bonus time here. I want to remind everyone to subscribe and listen on, what is it, Spotify, Podbean. Subscribe on YouTube. We got the Facebook page, Little Column A, Little Column B podcast. You can follow Zach on his X account, which is
Wicked Z-Man 24.
Yeah, anything to update for the people on right now?
Just I'm watching football and I'm watching a lot of basketball. I was just in New York City watching Marquette just squeak by St. John's. So that's always fun to go down to the city.
MSG looked like a happening place.
Always is.
Yeah, I don't know how we're going to get out of this. I feel like I already talked all my ass off on Marvel. I feel like I put everyone to sleep on that. Are we going to do that again?
I couldn't really find a lot of stuff about that Defenders stuff, so I had to talk it out with somebody.
I told you.
And you're my Marvel person.
I could tell you everything that's happening. All right, it's my Harry Potter source. Apparently nobody else knew that. You couldn't find that either. I called that like 3 months in advance. I'm confident in my source. I'm not confident in my presentation.
You got the deep sources. Not everybody's got them. People got to listen here, find out the news that's gonna just come out in 3 months.
Dude, the Daredevil original thing was so ridiculous. Foggy and oh man, I'm blanking out. What's her name? His two best friends. They were supposed to die in the first episode. That was the original plan. So like they weren't even in the season. Like I think they might have blipped or something. I don't know what they were planning on doing, but it was kind of like you had like a familiarity with the core of the show, and it was like, well, let's just get rid of half of it. Like, just wipe out those two. And it's like, wait, what?
That's a bold move.
Very, very bold move. And then it's like, all right, well, then what is going to humanize this guy at all? And well, it's like that was the fun part. I thought was Foggy and him kind of messing around on the side a little bit, and him looking like a regular, like the life outside the mask was fun
becoming
too.
A lawyer.
Yeah. So like I'm happy that that's corrected and that they're essentially continuing off of all of it. But yeah, no, they had some terrible ideas. And, this still can all get changed. That's the crazy part with all of this. This is Hollywood.
Timelines. Yep. Timelines. All of a sudden, no, we're on a different timeline. We're not making money on this one. We're going to go back. We're going to do this one now.
They're going to do whatever makes money. They ain't going to care about the story at all. There's nobody cares about anything. I'm ready for the reset button. That's coming soon. I don't know when it's going to happen. They're just going to be like, all right, nothing counts after this. Bookend it. Starting over.
Throw that money at Robert Downey Jr. again.
We'll be back next week. Thank you for listening.
Little column A, little column B.